Hey y'all, welcome back to Harmon Homestead. I'm out in one of my raised beds today and the chickens are loose, or some of them are. So if you hear something, it's roosters crowing in the yard. I can't mute that. So welcome back to the channel. We are in rural Alabama and we are already starting our seedlings indoors. So I've done these homestead classes. All it is videos where I tell you about things that I think are educational and I'm learning myself. And this morning I worked on a topic that I think would be very, very appropriate since I'm standing here by my concrete wire cucumber trellis. So let's talk about cucumber mosaic virus. By the name cucumber mosaic virus affects many different garden plants. One of the only ones that are resistant to the disease includes corn, peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, spinach, leafy greens. They're all susceptible to this. What is cucumber mosaic virus? Cucumber mosaic virus is a virus that gets in the plant and it causes severe yellowing of the leaves. So when you notice your cucumber training up here, you notice that some of the leaves look yellow. I'm going to insert a picture right here of my pasture garden 2 years ago. And the leaves will get very yellow and they get brittle like sandpaper, just like a grit, a dry grit. They look speckled. They just look infected with something and they look like, hey, I haven't watered my plants, even though you've watered them. They look like they need fertilizer, even though you've fertilized them. So if you've got sun, fertilizer, and water, those plants should be looking deep green and beautiful. If you notice a yellowing and a quick, rapid yellowing on the leaves and the fruit, even the cucumbers will turn yellow, then you've probably got cucumber mosaic virus. Now, also, guys, I've seen it before here. I've seen it in my pasture garden, and it is quick. Your plant will die within a week. I'm telling you. You'll come out here and your plant will be beautiful. You'll come back the next day, it's looking a little rough, 1 or 2 leaves wilted. By the weekend, it's dead. So what this does is it does something called chlorosis. It causes that to happen. This virus kills chlorophyll. It stops it from working in the plant, and that way the plant can't photosynthesize. It can't take in the sun, the nutrients, and it can't run its engine. Okay, so it just dies. It runs out of gas. So what's the cause of this? We really don't know. It was identified in the early 1900s, and guys, everything I'm talking about is going to be in articles in the link of this. They're going to be linked in the description of this video because I did tons of research on this morning and last night trying to help you guys. So on the picture that I showed you right here, I think that's what I had in my pasture garden because all of my cucumbers shriveled up and died very quickly. They turned yellow, but I thought it was because it was so hot. This is why I tell you to learn as much as you can. When I first started homesteading and gardening, I didn't care about watching a video on cucumber mosaic virus. Now I do, because I can identify what it is. I want my plants to do well. I know I can get them to do well, and I want to have the best garden ever. I've talked to you guys about 2024 food shortages. We've talked about this over and over. Guys, this is the year to grow as much food as you can. I don't care if you think something's going to be in a shortage or not. Grow the best garden you can and as much food as you can. Let's not go out here and waste our time trying to do all this and be uneducated to what's killing it off if we could have prevented it somewhat. Okay, so let's learn together about these things. So now looking back, I can identify what it was. So we know what cucumber mosaic virus is. We know how it affects the plant. So what do we do from there? What's the treatment? What do we do? There's nothing you can do. That's why prevention is the cure. How is cucumber mosaic virus spread? I know y'all are looking at my silkies back here. So cucumber mosaic virus is spread from plant to plant by pollen, wind. That's the first thing, okay? A lot of plants that we have overwinters this. Now, if I had plants right here in my garden that would come back next spring, I don't have any perennials in my raised beds. Certain perennials that overwinter and come back next spring actually will have the virus overwinter and it will come back next spring. The key ones for this, I'm gonna read off a list here to you. We have mint. How many people have mint in their yard? That can be a carrier of cucumber mosaic virus. Catnip, burdock. I've talked about burdock, or either I'm getting ready to, because guys, we just ordered a ton more seeds. I know, I'm in trouble. Milkweed. Y'all have heard of milkweed? Ground cherries. A lot of people like ground cherries, okay? Those can harbor cucumber mosaic virus. And last but not least, ragweed. There's so much ragweed down here in central Alabama, it's terrible. That stuff overwinters cucumber mosaic virus. So when the wind's blowing like today, spreads it on over to the cucumber plant, spreads it to your peppers, spreads it to your spinach, on and on and on. The wind can pollinate this stuff. So the next thing would be is spread by seeds. Don't save the seeds off these plants, okay? If a plant has it and you let it go to seed and it drops seed to the ground, you know, if you forgot one cucumber and it had it in your soil, there's the virus next spring. Not good. Also, the #1 spreader, I would say, and from what I read about, aphids. Guys, there's, I think, over 1,200 types of aphids. I'm not a bug expert. What I can tell you is I've seen aphids on my cucumbers and I've seen them in my garden, not terribly, but I have seen them. If it's a bug and it's not a squash vine borer and it's not a worm, it's not a hornworm, it's not a cornworm, it's not a beetle, it's probably going to be an aphid. Just what I'm guessing here, okay? So that's the ways that it's spread. Main thing, aphids. So what can you do? #1, you need to prevent this. How to manage this? Prevent it. Garden tools. Garden tools, garden tools. We talked about this with tomato blight. When you go from tomato plant to tomato plant with pruners pruning, those pruners have that blight, those fungal spores on them. Guess what? So does this. If you have to touch anything with your cucumber plant that's running up this vine, you've got it on your hands, you're moving to the next plant, boom, done. Garden gloves, to me, guys, are a double-edged sword. They're great. You need them out here, especially working around rusty wire, things like this. Poking your hands with any, like just a prickly leaf, you need them. But almost in this case, if you think something is diseased in your garden, it would not hurt, in my opinion, to get disposable gloves, just latex or non-latex gloves, and chunk them after each plant. If you are hardcore and you've got hundreds of plants and you don't want to spread it from one to the next, that's probably what I would do. You also need to clean your garden tools. Right now is the time before spring. Really fall, okay? But right now we're in early planting season here in Alabama. You need to be cleaning your garden tools. What we like to do is a solution of 1 part bleach to 9 to 10 parts of water. Little bleach, a lot of water. Clean the tools. Bleach can hurt metal tools over time. You can also use rubbing alcohol. That will help. Rub it on your tools and go from there. Need to keep things clean. Furthermore, I am notorious for planting in buckets. I've planted in huge buckets on the outside of this row here, on the outside of this panel, and then on the inside, cucumbers here, cucumbers on the outside. Guess what? Virus will stay in the buckets if soil is in the buckets, any residue. You actually, technically, guys, and I don't do this, I've not had disease in my buckets, but you need to clean your buckets. Believe it or not, you really need to clean those, because this virus will only stay living if it's attached to something alive. That's what I read. So any form of soil that's alive. I mean, this right here, this is alive. You know, that's living. Any piece of dirt, soil, however, whatever you call it. So it attaches to that stuff and then it stays on. Okay, so you need to clean anything that is possibly infected. And what do you do if you see this plant in your garden? I would personally burn it. Pull it up and burn it immediately. Don't wait and say, well, and scratch your head and say, I'm gonna see how this plant does. It's not gonna do, okay? If you notice yellowing leaves and you know you have fertilized, you know you have watered, and you know that it's getting good sun, good temps, okay? I would go on and pull it up. And when I say yellow, look up images. I can't put any of those images in this video of cucumber mosaic virus, but I'm telling you, it looks like almost the leaf of the cucumber will be pixelated. It's very pixelated looking with white and yellow and just grainy. It looks like a TV glitch. That's how it looks to me personally. It does not look like a lot of what they're saying. I guess every plant looks different. Just pull it up and burn it. Do not put this in compost. Now, I saw one article from one of the universities said that you could compost this with hot compost. I don't put anything diseased in my compost, because my luck, it won't do right, it won't kill it off, and it'll come back. Don't do that. You don't want to introduce any kind of virus that's bad to your natural, beautiful compost, okay? My bed over here, right beside me, is all nothing but living compost. I don't want anything in that bed. That's why I'm having to be so aggressive, but you can fill up a bed for $0, okay? You don't have to worry with topsoil. You don't have to worry with anything. I've told you before on our controversial composting. That's all that is. Leaves, mulch, pine straw, cardboard, shredded paper, eggshells, banana peels, whatever is tossed over in there. That's a living compost bed. It's great stuff. Best garden I've ever had right over there. You don't want anything bad in that. To reiterate, do not ever save seeds from these plants. Never, ever, 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 ever save a seed from a diseased plant. That's common knowledge, okay? Now, keep the aphid and pest population under control. Thankfully, last year we didn't have aphids. We didn't have them. Everything did well, was not bad, but I've noticed a trend with my cucumbers. They're starting to just kind of do poorly. Not great. They're not thriving. That's the one thing that I planted last year right here that was just not thriving. So I want to do them better this year. There was nothing I could identify. It was 103 degrees here in June. We had record heat last June, so could have been that, probably was that. They didn't have the yellowing, they just wilted. And it was a wilt that once I watered, it would come right back. It was not a disease wilt. So, you know, you're already battling the weather. Then you've got the pests. So that's why we're trying to get these videos out to get you guys educated. And hey, if you know about this stuff, comment below. Tell us tips. Tell everybody tips. I'm not the only one and my husband that reads these comments, guys. Everybody across the U.S. and world. Our second place that watches us is Canada. They read your comments too. So please, if you're experienced with this, comment below. But you don't want to battle the weather and pests. It's bad enough with one, not the other. So what can you do to keep aphids away? Keep your yard clean. That would help. Keep good airflow. I'm all about good airflow, having things spaced out in your yard. Now my garden's a different story. You can't walk 1 foot without a plant. I'm terrible about that. I'm terrible. I know. But do as I say, not as I do. Space your plants out so you've got really good airflow. If anything, it lets you see a pest infestation where somebody like me that's got them all jumbled up together can't see as well. We've talked about herbs over and over and over, and we are going to talk about herbs probably this week or next week again. Okay, guys? I just told you I've got more seeds on the way. It's out of control. But there's beneficial things for herbs in your home, in your garden, wherever. Garlic and anise. I've got anise started inside. It's already germinated, doing beautifully. Anise beside your cucumbers. That smell will keep them away. Now, nasturtiums. I've talked about nasturtiums 500 times. I'll talk about them 500 more times. Beautiful flowering nasturtiums. They can be used as a trap crop. We've talked about that on companion planting. They're great beside cucumbers. They're great beside squash for squash vine borers. They're great beside anything, okay? They're beneficial because the bugs are drawn to that. However, you could plant that beside your cucumbers if you always have aphids. I would definitely do that. However, I would not plant nasturtiums if I didn't have an aphid problem, because they're gonna draw aphids if you don't already, okay? So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't plant them beside those cucumbers if you've never seen aphids before. Why do aphids matter? Aphids spread the cucumber mosaic virus. They spread it from plant to plant. They crawl to one, they jump to the other, they go back and forth, and they spread it everywhere. That's not good, okay? It's just increasing, I guess, the viral load of the plant. So you just don't want that, okay? You got to keep these aphids at bay. Companion planting for cucumbers. We said on our companion planting video, think of dill. Dill pickles. Dill is great. Dill keeps aphids at bay. These herbs are known, and that's what the internet says, to keep aphids away, and they're also beneficial to your crops. Dill, garlic, chives, cilantro, catnip, and fennel. We have every bit of that except garlic this year. Next fall we're going to plant garlic, but we've got onions, we've got anything pungent. Usually just bugs do not like that smell, so that's a good thing. Most of your common garden pests don't like that smell. Again, keep weeds down. Anytime there's weeds, moisture, damp, bugs go to. Like we said on the Are You Prepared Bugging Out, the mosquitoes, anything that is jumbled up and thick and moist and hot, they're gonna jump to. They're gonna fly to. They're gonna infest near. Keep around your garden clean. Keep this stuff cut. Keep it away. The one thing that I'm aware of that you can use, there may be more, okay? But the one thing that I use that keeps aphids away, and I used it last year, and that's probably why I didn't see any, Neem Oil. I use Captain Jack's Neem Oil. That's the only brand I've ever used. I can't comment if any of the others are good or not. This works great. Spray it on your plant. Read about Neem Oil before you use it, okay? But it does well for bush beans, for the little beetles. That's why I got it to begin with, because usually my bush beans towards the end will get the little beetles on them. They didn't this year. They did fine. And the cucumbers, it will keep aphids away. It also keeps white flies away. If you have carrots, it's great for tons of stuff. So get Neem Oil. That will work for aphids. You also could spray with a water hose. That goes against everything we've ever been taught. Spray your plants hard with a hard stream to knock the aphids off the leaves. Now the problem with that is, to me, I don't like spraying the leaves of my plants, because when you do, they say that increases the chance of fungus because it's hot, it's wet, you don't want it on the leaves, so always water at the base. So be careful doing that. I feel like there's a better alternative. I can get the neem oil. I will say this year I used milk and sprayed it on my plants. I also sprayed it on my cucumbers to keep powdery mildew off of it. Milk in the hot sun. It must be about 2 o'clock, full sun. Go out there and spray it. It worked. I didn't have one bit of powdery mildew this year. My plants did beautiful. I used it on zucchini, squash, and cucumbers. And guys, ultimately, at the end of the day, these plants are not going to live forever. They're going to die, whether the weather gets them or an infestation. But you'd rather the weather get them by the time it turns cool or too hot than a bunch of bugs right off the bat. See what I'm saying? Barrier crops. Now, I told you I'm looking to my right. That's where my potting mix bed is. Or I keep saying potting mix, but it's a DIY no potting mix bed. My compost bed is right beside me that I plant in. This is my topsoil raised bed. It's 20 by 30, that's 10 by 20. This year, I'm going to try to plant dent corn up here in the small bed. Cross just a few varieties and try to get my own dent corn going. And that's gonna be, a years long project, but I would like to try that. Corn is great for cucumber mosaic virus because it creates a barrier for the disease either spreading to other things or it spreading to the plants. Cowpeas actually can have cucumber mosaic virus in the seed. So when you plant that cowpea, we do pink-eyed purple hull peas. We plant it in our pasture garden beside our corn. Last year we didn't. That's one year we did not. We had enough. I just didn't want food with them last year, so we didn't. This year I will. So in those seeds, there can be cucumber mosaic virus. When you plant it in the ground, it sprouts. It's already got it. So everywhere that the peas are getting pollinated, pollen's coming off of them, bugs are getting on them and then going to something else, it spreads. But corn is resistant. So I thought when I was planting the peas by the corn, that would just be a great crop beside it. It fixes nitrogen into the soil. Peas and beans go beautifully with corn because corn is a high nitrogen taker, okay? I thought that I was doing well by the corn, but actually the corn was doing well by my peas as well, because the corn was helping the peas as much as the peas were helping the corn, because the corn was a barrier for this mosaic virus being spread. Guys, companion planting this year, we are really going to try to do that because there's benefit in this that we don't even know. And the more you investigate and read about this and learn, the more you're like, aha, you have that aha moment and it makes sense. So if I have cucumbers here and I have corn right here, that should give me a wall with this to keep it from spreading to anything else. If I've got buckets way on past over there, that may help. Okay, so that's a very, very, very good idea. Now, last but not least, best thing to do, the optimal thing to do would be to buy resistant varieties. And they do have resistant varieties. Look them up. I did the seed haul video last week, 2 weeks ago, and I talked about my Bet Alpha cucumbers. These are resistant to cucumber mosaic virus. I wrote down some varieties here. It's just the most common ones y'all have heard of, but I'm glad these do. Now, my Ashley cucumbers that said they were powdery mildew resistant are not resistant to cucumber mosaic virus. So I might plant them both just to see, you know, what happens. But these are, guys, these are really famed as good cucumbers. You may want to look into these. Bit Alpha Boston Pickling Improved. Everything that you've heard of that I say, it's common varieties, but they have improved behind them. The improved is because they've made them resistant to this. Boston Pickling Improved. Bush Pickle Cucumbers. Marketmore 76. I know y'all have heard of that. And Marketmore 97. Muncher Cucumbers. That's very common. National Pickling Improved Cucumber. Space Master 80. That's very common. We've grown that. And Straight 8 cucumbers. Very common. So, guys, when you're ordering your seeds, you may want to think about that, because I know a lot of y'all are getting ready to order. A lot of y'all have told me you're getting ready to order seeds, and we just ordered, I don't know how many more free seed catalogs. They're free. You don't even have to pay for shipping. They just send them to you. Learn these varieties that are resistant to certain diseases. Scour through these books. Keep them. They will be an archive for you in years to come, and you can learn. These are your textbooks for gardening, getting stuff like this. So this year, I've only got this really one trellis. My pole beans go on that side, or either my cattle panel tomatoes that are, it's a cattle panel over here, 2 of them. So I'm probably going to plant cucumbers here again. What would also be a good technique to prevent cucumber mosaic virus is practice crop rotation. If I had another area to plant those, I probably would, instead of this one strip right here for them to climb up. But this is 20 feet total right here that we use on one side for cucumbers. I may rotate it this year, but I didn't have a problem last year, but I don't want this virus in my garden, because I've seen it before in my pasture garden. It was no good. And that year, guys, I planted cowpeas. So I'm pretty sure that's what I had. Just very interesting to learn about this stuff. Let us know about cucumber mosaic virus if you've ever had it before and what you think about it. All right, thank you for joining us for our homestead class. We'll see you next time on Harmon Homestead.